At my boyfriend's class reunion, he proposed to me. But then, his first love suddenly appeared. She was wearing the exact same little black dress as me. Liam, no matter how similar a replica is, it's not me. Liam didn't even glance at her. He was focused on slipping the ring onto my left ring finger. Olivia, will you marry me? But I could clearly feel the hand that held mine trembling slightly. For a moment, I was lost. After 2 years of dating, I had waited for this day for a long time. But as I opened my mouth, I found myself unable to utter the next words. Not receiving my answer, Liam looked up at me and gently repeated, Olivia. At that moment, his usually calm and unwavering eyes even showed a hint of vulnerability and pleading. My heart instantly softened. Yes, I will. At the very moment I spoke those words, Lily, who was sitting nearby, let out a cold laugh. She strutted over in her high heels and took a seat without a word. She wore the same little black dress as me, had the same chestnut-colored long curls, and her lips were a vibrant red. She was strikingly beautiful. The look she gave me was filled with blatant disdain. It was as if she were looking at a knockoff, a substitute. In the stagnant atmosphere, it was Liam's former class president who stood up and started clapping. All right. Liam finally proposed successfully. Let's all have a toast. Successfully? Lily looked over with a smile. Liam, do you think your proposal was successful? Liam said coldly, it's none of your business. He paused, then took my hand and sat back down. Perhaps it was a coincidence, but our seats were directly opposite Lily's. Her every word and action were clearly visible to me. Lily picked up her glass of red wine, took a small sip, and then turned her head to talk to the man beside her. I don't know what they were talking about, but Lily laughed, her beauty radiant and unrestrained, her eyes sparkling. Suddenly, I understood why her gaze towards me was full of disdain. Even though I dressed so much like her, I didn't have the same captivating and unrestrained aura. An East Chamber imitation of the West. As the idiom popped into my mind, I felt a sense of embarrassment and lowered my eyes. I lowered my eyes in embarrassment and asked Liam in a low voice, why did you give me this dress? Liam was silent for a moment, because I thought it would suit you. Suit me? I opened my mouth, wanting to say something, but in the end, I just remained silent. I suddenly remembered something that happened 2 months ago. At my best friend Chloe's urging, I dyed my long hair, which I had kept for years, chestnut, and even got a perm for big waves. The next day, when I went on a date with Liam, he saw me and his eyes were momentarily dazed. His gaze was on my face, but it was as if he was looking through me at something else. I asked him softly, what are you thinking about? Thinking about you. He came back to his senses, reached out, and gently stroked my hair. This is very beautiful. It suits you very well. A few days later, Liam gave me this little black dress and a maple red lip gloss. These things were completely different from my usual style. But Liam held my waist, buried his face in the crook of my neck, and said in a husky voice, Olivia, wear it for me, okay? I couldn't resist him when he was like this. Actually, Liam was a pretty cold person. The female colleagues in the company occasionally gossiped about him, calling him a cold, unattainable flower. After we got together, most of the time, he maintained a detached and self-possessed state. We rarely even kissed. The few times we did, they were like a dragonfly skimming the water, brief and shallow. But that day, when I put on this little black dress for the first time and applied the maple red lip gloss and stood in front of him, Liam stood up abruptly and strode towards me. I had never seen him lose his composure like that before. After staring at me for a moment, he lowered his head, pinched my chin, and kissed me forcefully. Olivia. Liam's voice pulled me back from my memories. I came back to my senses and saw him pick up a shrimp, carefully peel off the shell, and put it in my bowl. The faint flicker of joy in my heart was instantly extinguished when I saw Lily across from us. The man beside Lily was wearing gloves, diligently cracking open a crab for her. She sat there calmly, raising her alluring eyes, looking provocatively in our direction. Throughout the entire meal, Liam took care of me meticulously. But I couldn't be happy at all. Before we got together, I knew that he had a first love named Lily. They were together for half a year and broke up before graduation. It was said that Lily was going to study abroad and she couldn't accept a long-distance relationship. When Liam and I got together, he had already been graduated for 2 years. 2 years. Even the deepest feelings should have faded, let alone their half-year relationship. That's what I always thought. But today, seeing Lily, I suddenly realized that maybe Liam had never completely forgotten her. In fact, he had been trying to find Lily's shadow in me, and when he couldn't, he tried to make me more like her. A sharp pang of pain shot through my heart. I pressed my hands on the table and stood up, my knuckles white from the force. "Excuse me, I need to go to the restroom." "I'll go with you." Liam stood up, about to follow me, but Lily's lazy voice sounded from behind. "Such a great relationship, you can't even bear to be apart for a trip to the restroom. Why don't you just tie yourselves together with a rope?" She then laughed to herself, her laughter unrestrained, yet pleasant to the ear. Liam's steps abruptly stopped. He looked at me with a heavy gaze, emotions flickering in his eyes, finally settling into a deep blackness. "You go ahead," he said softly, "I'll take you home later. Actually, my features are rather delicate, and bright lip colors don't really suit me. But because Liam gave it to me, I wore it often." Standing in front of the mirror in the restroom, I used a wet tissue to vigorously wipe the color off my lips. I didn't have makeup remover wipes, and this matte lip gloss was particularly difficult to remove. I used some force, and my lips were rubbed raw. I don't know how long it took, but the lip gloss was finally wiped off, but my lips had many small, bleeding wounds. I smiled at my disheveled reflection in the mirror and turned to leave. When I returned, the party was already over. The door to the private room was ajar. I was about to push it open when I heard Lily's voice from inside. "I heard from the class president that you never came to any of the reunions in the past few years, but you suddenly showed up this year and proposed to your girlfriend. What, are you doing this to show me?" My hand tightened silently on the doorknob. After a moment, Liam's voice sounded, his tone cold. "Of course not. Don't flatter yourself." Am I flattering myself, or are you afraid to admit it? I pushed the door open, just in time to see Lily lean forward and kiss Liam on the lips. Hearing the noise, they both looked in my direction. Liam's face was slightly pale, but Lily's smile was radiant. She picked up her bag and walked towards me with a nonchalant air. As she passed me, she stopped, turned her head, and said in a voice that both Liam and I could hear, "Honey, your fiancé tastes good." Before I met Lily in person, I had heard about her from Liam's friends. She was the most popular goddess during their college years. The boys who liked her were like carp crossing the river, and she herself was a flirtatious and carefree person, changing boyfriends like changing clothes. Although Liam only dated her for half a year, it was already the longest relationship she had ever had. She walked past me, and the perfume she wore was sweet and familiar. Last month, Liam gave me the exact same bottle. A strong sense of humiliation surged through me. I instinctively clenched my hands at my sides, my fingertips turning white from the force. Olivia. When I came back to my senses, Lily was gone, and Liam, who had been by the window, had come to stand in front of me. He cautiously reached out, seemingly wanting to hug me. I took a step back, avoiding his hand. "You're dirty." I tried my best to make the sentence sound calm, but my voice still carried an uncontrollable tremor. Hearing me say this, Liam's face instantly turned pale. He raised his hand and wiped the lipstick mark Lily left behind, again and again, until there were many small wounds on it, and they began to bleed. "Is it clean now?" he explained in a hoarse voice, his dark eyes staring at me unblinkingly. "Olivia, I was going to dodge, but she touched me just as you came in. I didn't have time." I was silent for a while, then asked softly, "Why did you suddenly propose to me at the class reunion today?" "I just wanted our former classmates to witness it. Olivia, you are the most important person to me now. I want to marry you. She and I broke up 4 years ago. I really didn't know she would be at today's reunion. I gave you those things only because they are my personal preferences. I admit, I wanted to impose my personal aesthetic on you, and that was wrong of me, but I never meant for you to be her substitute, never." He spoke very sincerely, his eyes not wavering at all throughout the entire process, as if he had a clear conscience. But I only felt more and more bitter in my heart. After a moment, I took a deep breath and said slowly, "You know, Liam, we've been dating for 2 years, and you've never said so much to me at once before." Liam was stunned, his expression gradually becoming stern. He opened his mouth, seemingly wanting to say something, but in the end, he just closed his mouthly. In fact, the reason I was able to be with Liam was because of my persistent pursuit. When he first joined the company, because of his handsome face, many female colleagues were attracted to him, but he never agreed to have dinner with anyone. Coincidentally, at that time, I was managing several projects, and because I needed to hand over a part of them to Liam, we naturally had more contact. I invited him to dinner, bought him extra afternoon tea, and silently placed a cup of coffee on his desk when he worked late. On the day the project was successfully delivered, we worked overtime until late at night. After receiving the news, we only bought 2 cans of beer from the vending machine downstairs, barely considering it a celebration. The night breeze was cool that night. I opened the beer can, and the foam spilled all over my hand. Just as I was at a loss, Liam handed me a tissue from the side. I was about to take it, but he didn't let go. He just wiped the foam off my hand little by little, and then he held my fingertips. "Quinn Olivia," he asked in a light voice, "are you pursuing me?" I was stunned, and my ears turned slightly red as I responded, yes. However, even after being together for 2 years, I still didn't know why Liam agreed to be with me at that time. After we got together, he wasn't bad to me, he just didn't like to talk and didn't like to take the initiative. I always convinced myself that he was just that kind of person. But I ignored the fact that I was also a quiet person in front of others. But after being with Liam, I would rack my brains to find topics to talk to him about and send him messages to share my daily life. Even our first kiss was initiated by me. But this wasn't because of personality. It was simply because he didn't love me enough. I told Liam that I wanted some time to think. His eyelashes trembled, hiding the rolling darkness in his eyes. "Then let me take you home." "No need." I looked down at the ring on my hand, still intending to take it off and return it to him. "You should keep this for now." Before I could finish, Liam grabbed my hand, his voice hoarse. "Olivia, you already said yes to my proposal. You can't go back on your word." The pain in his eyes was obvious. I looked at it, and for a moment I was slightly dazed. The usually calm and detached Liam was actually heartbroken because of me. When we got downstairs, it was completely dark. This restaurant was in a rather remote location, the streetlights were dim, and there were only a few cars passing by. Liam turned to face me, his tone almost pleading. "Olivia, I know you're still angry, but it's late and it's really not safe. Just let me take you home, okay?" I finally agreed. There was no need to joke about my own safety. On the way home, I remained silent, absent-mindedly looking at the receding scenery outside the car window. Instead, it was Liam who tried to find topics to talk about, trying to make the atmosphere in the car, which had almost dropped to freezing point, a little warmer. I listened to him talk without saying a word, until the car stopped at a red light, and I suddenly said, "If Lily hadn't proposed breaking up before she went abroad, would you have stayed together?" Liam's hand suddenly tightened on the steering wheel. I looked at his knuckles, which were slightly white from the force, and somehow my heart felt sour. "Forget it, you don't have to." "No." Liam interrupted me, turned to look at me, his eyes a calm expanse of indifference. Even when she was with me, there were always people coming and going around her. I never felt like we were from the same world. "But you're different, Olivia. You're the only person I've ever thought about marrying." He said the last sentence very sincerely. The light from the car's dome light shone down, and his handsome eyes seemed to be filled with stars. My heart suddenly softened for a moment. When I came back to my senses, I avoided his gaze and said lightly, "It's green. Drive." A trace of sadness flashed in Liam's eyes, but he said nothing and silently started the car. After I got home, he sent me a message, "Remember to apply ointment to your lips." The words "you too" were typed in the chat box, but after hesitating for a moment, I deleted them one by one. The next morning, I was carrying a bag of trash downstairs when I saw Liam waiting downstairs at a glance. He hurried to me, but when he saw what I was holding, he was stunned. I expressionlessly threw the packed little black dress, perfume, and lip gloss into the trash can. When I looked at Liam again, his expression was flawless. Liam said softly, "Let's go to the company together." In the car, I sent a message to Chloe. Liam came to pick me up for work. She replied with a shocked expression and then asked me, "Are you going to forgive him?" "I don't know." I really didn't know. For the next few days, Liam picked me up and dropped me off at work on time every day, brought me things I liked to eat during afternoon tea, and when we were alone, he tried to find topics to chat with me about. I wasn't unmoved, but I always thought about the scene of Liam's proposal to me that day. The moment Lily walked in, his eyes changed, and the hand that held mine suddenly tightened. Was he really indifferent? At the end of the month, the company sent me on a business trip. But on the day I was supposed to return, a sudden heavy rain hit the area. The backflow of water caused traffic and communication to be paralyzed. I was stranded in a hotel room, waiting for a flight that might not return anytime soon. However, late the next night, after I hung up on Chloe's call because of the internet outage and was about to go to sleep, there was a sudden rapid knock on the door. I walked to the door cautiously. "Who is it?" "Olivia, it's me." After a moment of stunned silence, I abruptly opened the door and was pulled into a slightly damp embrace. "Liam." My voice was a little hoarse. "How did you get here?" His warm palm was against my hair. Gently stroking it, I managed to hitch a ride on a supply truck. "Olivia, I was just worried you'd be scared." I was indeed scared. These past few days, the phone signal had been intermittent, and the entire city had almost become an isolated island. Although the water on the streets had gradually receded, the panic in my heart had not completely disappeared. Only now, leaning in Liam's arms, did a glimmer of light appear in my wavering heart. At least at that moment, I thought he really saw me. After I got back, I cut my hair short, dyed it back to black, and switched back to my old shirts and jeans. Liam didn't say anything. He even reached out and touched my short hair, smiling and praising me. Very cute. However, just when I was almost forgetting about Lily, she suddenly appeared again. That day after work, Liam and I went downstairs together, and from afar, I saw a familiar figure standing by the roadside. It was early autumn, and the wind was cool, but she was still wearing a well-tailored halter dress. The wind blew, moving the hem of the dress, revealing 2 slender calves. I could feel Liam's arm, which I was holding, stiffen slightly. My heart also sank. Seeing us, Lily walked over gracefully and said to Liam with a smile, "Liam, I have something I want to say to you alone." She didn't even look at me, as if I were just an insignificant passerby. Somehow, I suddenly felt like laughing. "You guys talk, I'll go first." As I said this, I was about to pull my arm out of Liam's, but he firmly held my wrist. He pursed his lips, glanced at me sideways, and there was a glimmer of light in his eyes. Then he turned his head again and said coldly to Lily, "Whatever you have to say it here." Lily's expression froze slightly, and she quickly regained her usual composure and indifference. "Liam." She reached out and tucked her wind-blown hair behind her ear. "I'm getting married." Lily handed over an invitation. Liam stared at the conspicuous ring on her hand for a moment, then said lightly, "Congratulations." He never took the invitation. Lily's expression gradually stiffened. Her watery eyes glanced over, then suddenly turned and handed the invitation to me. "In that case, you can take it for your boyfriend." Something was suddenly stuffed into my hand. I instinctively grabbed it, and when I realized I wanted to return it, Lily had already turned and left. Her disregard for me unexpectedly provoked my anger. I was about to tear up the invitation when Liam suddenly reached out and took it from my hand. I was slightly stunned. "Are you going?" Liam lowered his eyes, avoiding my gaze. "I just think you don't need to get angry over irrelevant people." "Irrelevant people, huh?" That invitation seemed to have no effect on Liam. He was still as considerate to me as before, and his attitude was much gentler. But once, when we were on a date, he arrived first. When I got there, I happened to see him propping his chin on his hand, his gaze wandering absent-mindedly towards the distance. Following his gaze, I saw the backs of a couple. They were probably 2 college students. The boy was tall and straight, and the girl had long, chestnut-colored curly hair. Her graceful figure looked familiar. My whole body froze. Until the girl turned her head. It wasn't Lily. Somehow, I breathed a sigh of relief. When I turned my head again, I realized that Liam had already walked to my side. He took the bag from my hand and casually asked, "What do you want to eat tonight?" I was silent for a moment, then asked him softly, "Are you still thinking about her?" "Who?" "Lily." Liam's footsteps suddenly stopped. He turned to look at me. Behind him was the vast, blood-red sunset glow, and his handsome face was reflected with a charming vulnerability. "I was just thinking about my college days. Olivia, I wish I had met you first." He paused, his gaze moving down to the ring on my hand. "These past 2 days, I've contacted my parents. They'll be coming over next month. If possible, you should also contact your parents. Olivia, let's get married." The meeting of the parents was almost entirely arranged by Liam. He confirmed the time with my parents, booked a private room at the hotel in advance, and even asked me to help him choose a bunch of gifts. But my heart was empty, seemingly tethered in midair by something ethereal, unable to land. Chloe asked me, "Have you thought about it? Is it really Liam?" In that moment of hesitation, I remembered the afternoon he first joined the company. The supervisor asked me to meet with the new project manager. When I walked into the conference room, I happened to meet Liam's gaze. Cold and distant, yet with a lingering hint of carelessness. He stared at me for 2 seconds, then suddenly smiled slightly. "Button." I was stunned. "Huh? Your shirt button. It's undone." I looked down, my face instantly turning red with embarrassment. I quickly turned sideways and fumbled to button up the button on my chest that had somehow come undone. When I turned back around, Liam's expression had returned to its usual calmness. "All right, now we can hand over the project matters." I think that was the moment I fell in love with him. "I've thought about it," I told Chloe. "If the marriage partner is Liam, I'm very willing." Time passed day by day, and the time for meeting the parents was getting closer and closer. That night, I went to the high-speed rail station to pick up my parents and suddenly received a call from Chloe. "Olivia." Her voice was slightly urgent, and there was still some hesitation in her tone. "You told me the other day that the hotel where you and Liam are meeting your parents is called Springtime, right?" I was stunned. "Yes, it is. What's wrong?" "I came here after work to run some errands, and I happened to pass by. I saw someone hanging wedding garlands and balloons at the entrance. The names of the bride and groom were written on them, and the bride's name is Lily." It was as if a thunderclap had exploded in my mind, and my brain went blank for a moment. "Olivia, are you okay? Do you want me to come over and keep you company?" Chloe's worried voice barely pulled my thoughts back. I came back to my senses and found that I had bitten my lips so hard that they were hurting. It took me a long time to say hoarsely, "No need." Looking at my parents' expectant faces, there were some things I just couldn't say. Early the next morning, Liam drove to pick us up. Along the way, I didn't say a word. He probably sensed something was wrong and took advantage of a stop to ask me, "What's wrong, Olivia? Are you in a bad mood?" His expression seemed flawless. My eyelashes trembled, and I finally said, "Lily is getting married at this hotel today, did you know?" He looked at me, pursed his lips, and his expression became serious in an instant. I pinched my palm hard, trying to stay calm, but my voice still trembled uncontrollably. From the last proposal to today's meeting with the parents. "Liam, what do you take me for, a tool to spite each other with Lily?" Before I could finish, Liam pulled me into his arms. "It's not like that, Olivia." His voice paused for a moment, carried by the wind into my ears, the emotion unclear. "I booked this place only because it's the best hotel in the city. As for the time, I don't know why it coincided with hers. Olivia, believe me. If Chloe were here today, she would probably shake Liam off without hesitation and yell at him, 'Believe you? I don't believe a word you say.' But I'm not her." So in the end, I just closed my eyes, pushed Liam away, and said wearily with my eyes downcast, "Today my parents and your parents are here. I won't say anything. Even if we want to break up, let's talk about it when we're alone." Hearing the word break up, Liam gripped my fingertips tightly. "We won't break up." His tone was firm, like a solemn promise, but I didn't know who he was saying it to. From the parking lot all the way to the private room upstairs, he held my hand the entire time, never letting go. When both sets of parents saw us like this, they all smiled. Young people are so in love. Since the children have no problems, let's set the wedding date as soon as possible. While they were talking happily, there was vaguely noisy music coming from outside. The waiter said apologetically, "I'm sorry, there's a wedding in the banquet hall upstairs today, and they're reading their vows now." Before he could finish, Liam, who was sitting next to me, suddenly stood up. I instinctively reached out to grab the hem of his clothes, but I missed. Under the astonished gazes of both sets of parents, Liam composed himself and managed a smile. "It seems like we chose the wrong flavor for the soup we ordered earlier. I'll go to the kitchen with them to check." He walked to the door hurriedly, and just as he was about to leave, I called out softly from behind him, "Liam, don't make such a fool of yourself." Liam paused for a second at the door, but ultimately didn't turn back. At that moment, I clearly heard something in my heart shatter. My mom was the first to notice something was wrong. She silently dragged her chair next to me and gently took my hand. "What's wrong?" I then realized that my hand was trembling slightly and my fingertips were ice cold. "Mom?" Taking a deep breath, I forced back the soreness in my eyes, supported myself on the table, and stood up. Liam has been gone for so long. I'll go see what's going on. Actually, it hadn't been that long, but every second since he left the private room had been stretched infinitely long by the torment in my heart. I bit my lip and entered the elevator, watching the number jump from 8 to 9, and then the door opened. The lively atmosphere in the banquet hall suddenly stagnated. From afar, I saw Lily standing on the stage, wearing a gorgeous wedding dress, surrounded by countless flowers. Liam was standing under the stage, a few steps away from her, looking up at her. Like a devout believer, gazing at his muse. Her watery, affectionate eyes looked at Liam. The corners of her eyes seemed to be filled with tears, but the corners of her mouth were raised. She said, "Liam, I knew you would come to take me away." The banquet hall was in an uproar. Clearly, this dramatic scene, like something out of a movie, shocked everyone. I walked out of the elevator and walked behind Liam step by step. I stopped a few steps away from him and called softly, "Liam." He seemed to be suddenly awakened from a dream, abruptly turning his head to look at me, his eyes still carrying a trace of lingering bewilderment. "Olivia." I took a step back, abruptly dodging the hand that was trying to grab the hem of my clothes, and then announced softly, "Liam, you're free. Let's break up." In my imagination, the tone of my voice should have been cold and firm, but when I spoke, I realized that my voice was already filled with an uncontrollable sob. With a ding, the sound of the elevator door opening came from behind me, followed by a rush of footsteps from far to near, stopping beside me. A warm and soft hand rested on my shoulder. The next second, a heavy slap landed on Liam's face. "You big lover, you big fool. Can you stop acting like someone is persecuting you?" Chloe supported me, raised her eyelids, and smiled coldly at Liam. "You can't bear to let her go, huh? But your true love is still standing on the stage waiting for you. Look at her. You could probably pick up a cantab from the ground right now and she'd marry you, so why don't you hurry up?" With that, she took out her phone from her pocket and started taking pictures of Liam and Lily. Come on, hurry up and make your vows. I'll record this beautiful moment for you too and post it online. Next Valentine's Day, everyone won't have to go out to watch a romance movie, they can just watch you two act here." Lily's expression was extremely ugly, but Liam no longer looked at her. He just looked at me intently and cautiously, his expression fragile as if it would shatter at any moment. "I'm sorry, Olivia." He apologized to me. I just what? Couldn't resist? One last time. I came back to my senses, let out a long sigh, and looked at him with indifferent eyes. "Liam, you disgust me." His handsome face instantly turned pale, without a trace of color. But I didn't feel any better. It was just that the chaotic memories of the past 2 years flashed back in my mind repeatedly, and in the end, they all shattered into dust. I turned around and took Chloe's hand to leave. Liam called my name, Olivia, again and again from behind. I never looked back. Not even once. It wasn't until I walked to the lobby on the first floor that the stuffy feeling in my chest finally dissipated slightly. I turned to look at Chloe. "Why did you come?" She reached out and touched my hair, her tone gentle. "I was afraid you couldn't handle those 2 jerks alone." The tears I had been holding back all this time suddenly fell when I heard her words. Since high school, Chloe had always been the protector in my life. I was naturally introverted and taciturn, and every time I was bullied, she would stand up for me and fight back. Not long after I got together with Liam, I took him to meet Chloe. At that time, she stretched out her hand generously, shook hands with him, and then said with a smile, "See this hand? If you dare to do anything to hurt Olivia, it will turn into a slap and land on your face." I never thought it would be prophetic. Chloe straightened my collar for me, and when the suffocating emotions gradually subsided, I remembered that I should tell my parents. When I called them, there was faint noise on the other end, followed by my dad's angry tone. Let's go. We're not going through with this." Later, I learned that they had waited for Liam and me for a long time, and under the guidance of the waiter, they went upstairs and happened to see Liam holding Lily's hand and walking down from the stage with her. Lily's original fiancé looked grim. "What do you think you're doing? Lily, you're breaking off the engagement." She turned her head and said with a disdainful look, "It was you who forced me to marry you in the first place. I never intended to marry you." Later, Chloe took my hand, and we ran into them in the lobby. My parents walked in front, their faces still filled with anger, and Liam's parents hurriedly followed behind them, explaining. And Liam. Lily, wearing a wedding dress, was holding his arm, walking at the end, almost sticking to him. This scene was even more dramatic than a TV show. My dad walked to my side, saw Chloe, and his expression softened slightly. Chloe said smoothly, "Uncle, I drove here. Let's go." In-laws. My mom suddenly turned around and pointed at Liam's nose, scolding. "Who are your in-laws? Take care of your own son first. He's so fond of such a disreputable woman. Why did he come to harm our decent daughter?" It was a chaotic scene. In this atmosphere, I looked at Liam quietly. He opened his mouth and suddenly seemed to realize something. "Olivia." He called my name. I didn't respond for a moment, but just looked over his shoulder and met Lily's beautiful face and her provocative and smug gaze. As if to say, "Look, no matter how hard you try, as long as I crook my finger, your boyfriend will abandon you without hesitation and come to me." Yes, she was always the winner. But I never had any interest in competing with her. I looked at Lily calmly and mouthed silently to her, "He's all yours." Liam was still explaining to me. Lily's family is forcing her to marry a good-for-nothing playboy. I just wanted to help her one last time. I nodded and said, my tone calmer than I had imagined. "You can help her all you want. We've already broken up. It doesn't matter if you help her for the rest of your life." The dark waves in Liam's originally clear eyes rolled, and finally condensed into a shadow that seemed to never dissipate. He pursed his lips and asked me in a hoarse voice, "You'll never forgive me, will you?" I suddenly felt tired. I raised my hand and rubbed my eyebrows, then told him, "I don't not forgive you, Liam. I just don't love you anymore." In fact, it was easier than I thought to detach myself from this relationship. Probably because, the moment I saw Liam at Lily's wedding, I finally admitted that he valued Lily far more than me. Even though I was his girlfriend at the time, even though Lily was still entangled with other men when he was with her, even though he had found me in the city that had become an island due to the heavy rain and held me tightly. People are most afraid of comparisons. I had been hypnotizing myself with, "He's also very good to me," until the truth became a sharp blade, repeatedly cutting my aching heart, and I finally admitted, if he had to choose between me and Lily, he would choose her without hesitation. I rested at home for 3 days, and when I went back to work, I found that my colleagues looked at me strangely, their expressions hesitant. It wasn't until Chloe sent me a video link that I understood why. Someone had filmed the scene at Lily's wedding that day and posted it online. The absurd and comical love-hate entanglement was thus exposed to the world, with Lily standing on the stage with tears in her eyes, her sullen fiancé, and Liam, who seemed to have descended like a god to save her, standing under the stage. I, standing in the corner, was just an insignificant supporting role. At lunch, Liam sat down across from me with a tray. I looked up at him, paused slightly, swallowed the food in my mouth, and was about to leave with my bowl. "Olivia." He called out to me, his voice carrying cautious carefulness. "I've already contacted the person who uploaded the video and asked them to delete it. It was Lily's arrangement to get rid of her fiancé, not mine." I suddenly turned my face and looked at him expressionlessly. "Are you done?" Liam looked at me, the light in his eyes dimming inch by inch. For a moment, I almost thought he was going to cry. She came to me crying, saying that her family's business was in trouble, and her parents were forcing her to marry a nouveau riche to raise funds. I've already agreed with her that this is the last time I'll help her. "Olivia, I'm not lying to you. I only ever thought about marrying you." I stood there, listening to him quietly. This was the corner of the company cafeteria, with almost no one passing by. At this moment, it was as if an inexplicable atmosphere had separated us from the world around us. After Liam finished explaining, seeing that I was still indifferent, his expression suddenly turned painful. "Olivia, can we start over?" His eyes were as clear as ever. I looked over and saw my clear reflection in them. But it no longer had any meaning. "Liam, I don't want you anymore." I finally spoke, telling him calmly, "I've already submitted my resignation to the supervisor, and he's already approved it." Liam froze completely. After a moment, he asked me with red-rimmed eyes, "Will you ever come back?" I turned and left without answering him. I spent 2 weeks handing over my projects to others, then packed my bags, planning to go home and stay for a while. On the day I left, Chloe said she would see me off, but she ended up bringing a suitcase. Faced with my question, she smiled and reached out to rub my hair, a bit of starlight in her eyes. I took a vacation to go home with you. I was afraid you'd be unhappy alone, and your parents have to work, so they can't always be with you. The plane passed through the clouds and sunlight and landed at the airport in my hometown. When we got back, Chloe naturally stayed at my house. I didn't tell my mom I was coming back, otherwise she'd set up blind dates for me again. That night, we lay on the small bed in my bedroom, like when we were in school, head to head, whispering secrets. I didn't tell you before, I came back once last time. Gosh, it was only 3 days, and my mom arranged 4 blind dates for me, and not a single normal person. A small nightlight was on at the head of the bed. By that faint and warm light, I saw her lively expression and suddenly laughed out loud. She complained grumpily, "You're mocking me." I hugged the plush bear she gave me 8 years ago and looked at her with a smile. But your aunt has a point. You haven't been in a relationship for so long, it's normal for her to worry. When you bring a boyfriend home, she'll definitely stop pushing you to go on blind dates. I have someone I like. Chloe was silent for a while, then suddenly spoke. I was a little surprised, and I couldn't help but lift my upper body and turn my face to look at her. Really? Who is it? Have I met him? Do I know him? She gazed at my eyes in the dim light, and after a moment, she suddenly smiled, a smile brighter than the light. It's a secret. Chloe and I stayed at home for a long time, visiting many of the places we loved to go to when we were in school. Memories flowed back, bringing countless chaotic and profound fragments. The trauma caused by the previous failed relationship was gradually being healed. That evening, the air was filled with a damp, cold wind, and Chloe and I sat down at a barbecue stall we used to frequent. But before we had eaten much, several drunk men at the next table suddenly surrounded us, yelling and asking for our contact information. Chloe immediately protected me behind her, looking up at them coldly. "No. If you're drunk, go home to your mommy. Stop bothering strange girls." The men were enraged and reached out to touch us. "Get lost." Chloe raised her hand to block, and the slightly flickering light above her head flowed down, shimmering like water waves on her hair. It was at this moment that Liam appeared. He grabbed the man's hand that was about to land on me in time, forcefully pushed him to the ground, and then got into a fight with the several men. After the initial panic and surprise, I pinched my palm and quickly calmed myself down, then called the police. It was already late at night when we finished giving our statements at the police station. Liam's behavior was deemed as acting in self-defense, and the several drunk men who harassed Chloe and me were locked up in the detention room, and it was said that they would be detained for another 14 days after they sobered up. By the light of the street lamp, I saw that Liam's hand was bleeding. I hesitated for a moment, then reminded him. "Your wound, you should go to the hospital to deal with it as soon as possible." He didn't respond. I hadn't seen him for half a month, and he had lost a lot of weight. His hair had grown long and hadn't been cut, adding a bit of a disheveled look to his previously cold and indifferent appearance. It was indeed charming. But my heart was completely unmoved. Chloe's cold voice suddenly sounded. "How did you suddenly appear there? Since this morning, I felt like someone was secretly following us." "It was you, wasn't it?" Liam still didn't speak, just stood there, silently and longingly looking at me. But I didn't feel moved or disgusted, only boundless calm and indifference. At that moment, I truly and completely realized that I really didn't like him anymore. "Thank you for saving me tonight," I said softly. "If you need it, I will cover the medical expenses for your hand injuries." Liam's eyelashes trembled slightly, and he finally spoke. "I just wanted to see you again." "What else was there to see?" I didn't understand. "Since we've completely broken up, you can go back to Lily. Actually, she's always been your ideal type, hasn't she?" I continued. "I've never taken the initiative to do anything since I was a child. I pursued you because I really liked you so much at that time, so I abandoned my reserve and shyness and racked my brains to convey my feelings to you." He opened his mouth, seemingly wanting to say something, but I interrupted him. "Our 2 years together were pretty boring. You didn't like to talk to me, and most of the topics I tried to find were boring. Liam, I know you've always wanted to turn me into Lily, but that's impossible. Even if I wear the same dress as her, use the same lipstick and perfume, I still can't become her. Before you proposed to me, and even before I knew that our meeting with the parents and Lily's wedding were at the same hotel, I was genuinely willing to marry you. But now, I really don't like you anymore." I even felt a sense of disgust when I saw him. Because the face that once made my heart flutter would no longer remind me of the countless details of our love, but only of the embarrassment at Lily's wedding that day. Pain and regret stirred up a huge storm in his eyes. After a moment, it swept away all emotions, leaving only a dead silence. A sense-offness spread. At that moment, I felt as if something in Liam had become empty, and it could never be filled again. A few days after Liam left, I received a call from an unknown number. It was from Lily. On the phone, she questioned me in her usual arrogant tone. "It's strange, how could I lose to you? What's so good about you? How could Liam choose you in the end?" I just found it ridiculous. "That's a matter between the two of you. What does it have to do with me?" She was silent for a while, then told me, "I'm married." "Oh, congratulations to you both." "Not to Liam." I was speechless for a moment. Her voice came from the other end again. "I've had many boyfriends, but Liam was the most special one. Because so many people were still hung up on me after breaking up, but he found you, this new love, so quickly, and even planned to marry you. Your appearance, family background, education, everything is inferior to me. Why did he give me up for you?" You should ask Liam himself that question. I completely lost my patience and was about to hang up the phone when Chloe suddenly took the phone from me. "Hey lady, you're already married, and you still have time to question your ex-boyfriend's ex-girlfriend about these things? If you're really so bored, why don't you go shovel the manure at the entrance of your village? It's so unhealthy to be obsessed with love all the time, and it would be a contribution to society and the people." After saying the last word, she didn't give Lily a chance to fight back, hung up the phone directly, and blacklisted her number in one go. I looked at her, and somehow I really wanted to laugh. Chloe looked at me for a moment, then suddenly reached out and gently pinched my cheek. "If you want to laugh, just laugh. I'm just standing up for you," she said, rolling her eyes. "I think this woman is out of her mind, and she has some psychological problems. She always hopes that others will still be hung up on her after breaking up. Why? Is she the RMB? Maybe because she's pretty." Chloe suddenly leaned closer to me, looked me up and down, and finally concluded. "Pretty? Just SOSO. Actually, I think you're prettier than her. It's just that the curly hair before didn't suit you. Now like this, pure and natural, you couldn't be more beautiful." As she said this, her slender, soft fingers wrapped around a strand of my short hair, her eyes sparkling. I hadn't cut my hair again during this time, and my originally ear-length short hair had almost grown to my shoulders, the same hairstyle as in high school. I smiled a little. "You're lying. You were the one who urged me to perm that curly hair before," Chloe said without hesitation. "That's because I was blind at that time." She looked at my speechless expression and smiled even more, her eyes curving. After dinner, we walked slowly back along the cool, tree-lined path of late autumn. We happened to meet two high school girls, wearing school uniforms, walking past us hand in hand. Chloe suddenly stopped, turned around, and looked at them. After a moment, she turned her head and looked at me steadily. "Olivia, will we be best friends forever?" For a moment, I seemed to see a fleeting glimmer of tears in her eyes. But when I looked again, it was the usual spirited tenderness. I nodded firmly. "Of course we will. Then next time you're in a relationship, remember to tell me, so I can help you vet him." "Okay. And during the new year, help me persuade my mom. I really don't want to get married." The moonlight that night was particularly gentle. We talked all the way home.